So with that, we can leave the floor open to see if there's any questions. Ken, are there any comments or questions that we need to field at this point? Mr. Kavula is muted.
We're getting some questions, Mark, about whether we would consider selling anything out of this portfolio. We didn't present the total dashboard today to show those with very, very low PAR values, but maybe that's something we want to really focus on for our next roundtable.
We certainly can, yes.
There also was a question earlier back when we were looking at the relative return charts, and I don't recall who asked it, but someone had a question about whether you can, yes, I think it was Marie, as I'm scrolling back through the questions, whether you can calculate those return figures for your own stocks and how you would do it. Her exact question is there an easy way? And I guess the answer is yes and no. If for clubs, there is a very easy way, but I know you use a spreadsheet, and I also use a spreadsheet, Mark, but I'll toss that over and let you answer that.
Yeah, I'd be willing to post a vanilla version of this spreadsheet if somebody wants it for calculation purposes. Certainly post it in this, post on the forum. You can build your own. This is a really straightforward spreadsheet. So,
Mark, I think the question is focusing on the second last column. Where exactly are you getting the market return number? I think maybe just 30 seconds on that would help.
Okay, the market return is based on taking a look at the total stock market index. We use the Wilshire 5000 or VTMSX, and we're literally just looking at the change in value between the date that you see here, this May 2011, the start date, and the current value for that particular index, and literally just calculating that market return. So between May of 2011 and now, the annualized return on that index is 4.7%. So we're always comparing any investment that we make versus that general benchmark. We want to try to do better than that benchmark.
So that market return number repeats itself. If two companies were picked on the same day, I think the second company was picked on September 21st, 2010. And if you look at the blue band, or the green band, depending on whether or not I'm colorblind, you see the very last company was also picked on September 21st, 2010, and you get the exact same return for the index.
Yeah, here's what Hugh's talking about. These two companies, in this case it was Hugh picking Costco, I believe, and up here it's TJX, which was Ken's. And they both have the same market return. That just means the Wilshire 5000 was the same on the start point.
And you can get all of this data once Mark posts the spreadsheet with anywhere that you can get historical prices, so you can go back and fill it in for your own portfolio. I use Yahoo Finance, but there are other sources that have it as well.
And we use that extensively also. Does that help, Ken?
Yeah, I think so, Mark. Mark, Ann would like to know, do you have any idea what my par was around June 30th, 07, when the red lines on the return graph that you showed were down around 5%? In other words, right before the Great Recession, what was my par running?
9 to 10%ish, as I recall. Slightly higher than the number you're seeing now for the value line low total return forecast. There were a few other things that worked back then. We were not conditioning quite as much. We weren't collecting quite as much information outside of value line. So the numbers did tend to run a little bit more optimistically back in that time frame. So again, the number is slightly higher than what you see on that particular chart. Ann's referring to this chart. They were slightly higher. But all the ranges were higher also.
Okay, Mark, we have a comment and a question from Mary. Mary says that some Seeking Alpha writers are saying things about Walgreens picking up Rite Aid. Do you know anything about this? I haven't found anything on Walgreens' website. and maybe that's directed at Hugh.
Yeah, there has been talk of various different types of mergers. I mean, Walgreens not beyond buying other companies. It bought drugstore.com, which I thought was a really good addition to its portfolio. It bought Duane Reade, which is really focused in New York. Really good outfit, and I think it's learning something, especially from the grocery side of the business from there. But I've heard rumors too that it is kicking the tires of Rite Aid. Now, to what extent that's true, I don't know, but now wouldn't be a bad time to try to do it.
Yeah, I'll add to that, Hugh. Even the latest value line just came out a week ago. The last paragraph speculates about a possible Rite Aid acquisition.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look at a stock price, wow, I got that wrong. If you look at a stock price chart on Rite Aid, you can actually see evidence of some arbitrage there. People are kind of looking forward to that. And here you go at the end, as Ken was saying here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Mark, Marie would want to know, does Landauer's debt bother you at all?
Does Landauer's debt bother me at all? Depends on the financial strength. Let's go back and look. It's not in the portfolio yet, so we'll have to go get it.
I think it also depends on the amount of debt that its competitors are holding too.
Yep. You know, how's the debt compared to the competitors? How is the relative level of the debt? My knee-jerk reaction, without digging any deeper, and we certainly can do that, no. Whatever debt they have, it's not bothering me yet, because the financial strength rating is 98. It's worth looking at, but I don't have any concerns about it yet. I'd want to dig deeper based on Marie's question, but no.
Mark, we have a couple of people wanting to know where they can access the groundhog listings. Is there an easy place to go on the Manifest site to access the groundhog listings?
Is that coming from Ann because she wants to show off, or is it coming from Hugh because he wants to show off?
It's not coming from Ann or
No,
Hugh.
Certainly not me. I'd say it's Ann is more likely.
And before we go here, I'm not going to scroll. I refuse to scroll. This is a scroll-free Saturday morning. All right, you just go to the forum, click on the Groundhog Challenge. The second entry here gives you the current scoreboard. If you click on the scoreboard and click on the current year. I'll scroll a little. I won't scroll a lot. All right, so, well, there, Mid-Michigander is right up at the top. You can actually, and a club from Mid-Michigan. I think Hugh is on here.
Oh, yeah, I dropped way down the list.
Oh, you dropped down, though.
Yeah.
He was number 7 last Monday. I know that for a fact. Anyhow, this is how you'd find them. And then if you want to take a look, last year's group champion was the Northern Traders. If you want to see what the Northern Traders...
Chuck Brunel is a member of that club.
Oh, this is disgusting. They're controlling the market. So you can see they've got the age-old favorites there. Let's see what Chuck's invested in. He's edging out his own club by $1. Ah, yes. Some good stuff there. Apples, guns, drugs, wires, and boxes.
Excellent. It sounds like a shooting range on a farm.
Mark, could you do that just once more and show them how you got there?
Okay, we'll go back to the beginning. We'll go back to the Manifest forum, the general menu. Click on, you have to go down about 10 sections to the Groundhog Challenge. When the Groundhog Challenge comes up, always at the top of this page, you have last year's final results. So if you want to go and admire the results of the Northern Traders, I know they're here today, you can check that out. The second entry is the scoreboard. If you click on that scoreboard, you can look at all of the current entries in this year's contest by clicking on that. And we might as well see Ann won the individual championship, so let's look at our damsel's current settings, and you can see a lot of the stuff that she's talked about and stays true to form. She's basically ahead of the market on almost all 5 out of 5 since Groundhog Day.
Actually, there's not a whole lot of difference between, the top 10 or among the top 10 or even top 15 in terms of the dollar value.
Yeah, you get this is really tight.
Yeah.
I said I would scroll a little. And I'm scrolling a little just to make a point, guys. And let me make this point with the groundhog. It's something we like to talk about. All of these entries, including some of our honorary guest rhinos like Whitney, I'm scrolling down until I hit the general market. Hugh's above the market. Here it is, right here.
Wow.
So Hugh's actually still above the Wilshire 5000 since Groundhog Day. And
Oh no, I was well below it shortly after Groundhog Day. One of the picks there lost half its value.
Yep.
Well, we have a new expression, Mark. I seem to be pulling a mark on my portfolio, right?
I'm not sure I understand the comment.
It's mixed market a good thing.
How far do you have to go down to find mine, Mark?
Are you? You're not on here yet either? No, you're up here, aren't you? I'm not scrolling any further. I can't bear to look. All right.
Maybe you didn't pick mine up, huh? I'm going to hope for that, okay?
There it is. You're just a little under the market benchmark. You'll notice that I'm still not on the board. It's kind of like Tiger Woods when every once in a while he has a WD, has to withdraw after like 3 rounds.
You're just letting all the customers win.
No. All right.
Mark, we have a question from Geraldine, and anybody can take it. Is anybody really concerned about all the things going on about the healthcare field as far as Washington and the Supreme Court's concerned right now? Should we be buying our healthcare companies based on concern from what might come out of Washington?
Why don't you go ahead, you, from a macro perspective, or if you want to.
I don't know. It doesn't really bother me. I mean, it's one of the few cases where actually every voter potentially has a skin in the game. So I can't see Washington doing anything incredibly drastic, no matter what the pundits say. When you dig into the details, everything seems to swing to the middle of the road. We'll see. I mean, I know a lot of people are very uncomfortable with the compulsory healthcare mandate, which the Supreme Court will talk about. But for me, at least, there's some very quick fixes to the healthcare system which don't get a lot of attention and don't involve anything too drastic.
I guess I would just point out that I would say be careful. This party, whatever, and the party could be wrong, this party's been underway for a while. And if you look at how much and how fast the healthcare sector, this is the healthcare sector, looking at it from the top, things are generally have gotten much more pricey than in recent days. So, I mean, basically what I think is happening is there's a lot of people believing that the Supreme Court is going to reverse that decision.
Right.
I think my biggest feeling about health care, based on at least that question, is I don't know that we're going to see dramatic, certainly long-term shifts in the expectations for the industry, regardless of how the ruling comes out, because this is old news. I mean, we've been batting around the whole healthcare quote uncertainty since 2009, and you can see it in that chart that you just saw. There's been a significant upswing since. I mean, that's when all of this really started, and with the legislation and the debates over the legislation. Once the legislation got finalized there in mid-2009, notice you've been steady to up. So, the market doesn't like uncertainty, and if there was true uncertainty, I think we would be in a more potentially treacherous area or opportunistic. I mean, quite frankly, particularly when it comes to healthcare, I've always liked buying when the uncertainty has been the greatest, because generally what Washington comes up with is never as bad as anticipated.
Exactly.
And I don't see that opportunity right now, because I don't think I just don't think even if the Supreme Court throws the whole thing out, it's going to make that drastic a difference from the company perspective. Now, from the individual perspective, it may make huge differences, but either good or bad, depending on where you fall in the debate. But I don't look at it either as an opportunity or as a huge caution flag.
Anything else, Ken?
Mark, we've answered most of the questions. I don't see any hands up. We're at a quarter after, so I think if we can remember to maybe focus a little bit on selling at our next roundtable, I think we might be at a great place. Okay.
That sounds good.
Mary is making a point. Oh, Mary likes the pick of IPCM because hospitalists came into being to reduce medical costs related to Medicare reductions, and she thinks it's probably a safe area because, in fact, it does reduce costs.
Yeah, in fact, I'll just kind of jump over to I'll demonstrate a feature at our site. I'm going to IPCM, as Ken did, and then much like Seeking Alpha, only with our community involved here, if you click on that little hourglass, you're actually taken to, as I told you, we featured the company. The reason I'm bringing this up is I think this actually covers that pretty well. It actually talks about a report prepared by Alice Rivlin. That name's probably familiar to many of you. Back in 1979, that basically made the case that hospitalists were quite a necessary part of the solution to the very long-term question of cost in healthcare. So it's kind of fun to see where that came from, and I think you're right. Anything that can have impact on the cost equation is probably a pretty solid place to be within that sector.
Mark, I will repeat the comment that Susan Michelik made when I was making the presentation, and her comment was that while IPC likes to portray it as a patient advocate, in reality the hospitalist is a hospital advocate. She says that her doctor husband is quite clear about the fact that these hospitalists are advocates for the hospital system and what the hospital is doing.
But here's a question too. I don't know if the data are available, but I would say that where hospitalists are involved, probably the patient stay is shorter, and shorter could be 5% shorter, but that could be significant than where they're not, because I would imagine that there's somewhat of a little bit of a placebo effect, or it would kick in the normal tendency of people to be optimistic and to get involved in their own healthcare, etc., when they seem to have an advocate. I just wonder if that's the case. I would suspect it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything else popping up, Mark. It's been a pretty good session. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming again.
Thank you.
And Mark, we'll try to set the next 2 or 3 dates going forward with our slightly new arrangement of topics. Okay.
Fantastic. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Yes.